In this video, I'll explore exactly what happens when narcissistic parents push the empath too far and the empath has had enough. I'm Jerry Wise, and for over 45 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of people get their narcissistic and dysfunctional family out of them so they can finally reclaim their true self and find clarity, peace, and lasting freedom. Number one, the empath stops taking on the narcissist's pain. When narcissists push empaths too far, they then start to see the need and begin to change inside for how much they're absorbing of the narcissistic parent and emotionally absorbing. Narcissistic parents use emotional manipulation and gaslighting to keep the empath in a constant state of confusion and self-doubt. The narcissistic parent's emotional demands become overwhelming, forcing the empath to internalize their pain and take on emotional burdens that aren't theirs to carry. Eventually, the empath realizes that this emotional weight is not their responsibility, leading to a final breaking free and experiencing more self-differentiation, both internal differentiation or detachment and even external differentiation and detachment. Self-differentiation is the process of becoming and being your true self separate from your family programming. The ability to be connected to others is also important for self-differentiation. It allows you to be able to connect to others without abandoning yourself, even if your family never changes or doesn't like who you become. Number two, the empath stops feeding the narcissist's emotional needs. Narcissistic parents demand constant emotional supply from empaths and from the empaths in their family, making them feel responsible for the parent's happiness and well-being. The empath's needs are ignored or dismissed, causing them to give up their emotional space to meet the narcissistic's needs. However, the empath eventually sees the toll this takes on their own life and begins to stop feeding the narcissist's need for constant validation. They reclaim emotional boundaries, cease the cycle of emotional sacrifice, and prioritize their own needs and well-being. While empaths are naturally or exquisitely empathetic, empaths can learn, and many are able to distinguish between feelings and thoughts. They can work to remain more in their thought process while purposely staying out of their feelings with regard to the narcissist. Additionally, empaths can learn to stop absorbing other people's distress. I would suggest you read Judith Orloff's books, and one in particular, The Empath's Survival Guide. I'm for feelings. I think feelings are very important. I think many people who grew up in dysfunctional families did not learn well to identify and express feelings. But I'm talking about something different from that. I'm talking about how the feelings work within the system or the relationship system. And again, I like the book, The Empath's Survival Guide. Number three, empaths make their boundaries non-negotiable, and narcissistic parents disregard boundaries emotionally and physically, teaching the empath that their needs and space don't matter. The empath is conditioned to suppress their desires and comply with the narcissist's demands, leading to a lack of autonomy. The pain the empath experiences often comes to a head, which produces and pushes us into action. As a result, the empath begins to work on setting firm, non-negotiable boundaries and stops allowing the narcissist to dictate their emotional state. Being pushed into developing stronger inner and outer boundaries allows the empath to reclaim their true self and take ownership of their emotional well-being. Number four, the empath turns their empathy inward. When we have so externalized our empathy so much over so many years, and we get pushed or hit bottom, as some groups will say, then we begin to make a change, even as empaths. Narcissistic parents exploit the empath's compassion and emotional sensitivity, teaching them to prioritize the narcissistic parent's needs above their own. The empath's desire to rescue or fix others becomes entangled with the family's dysfunction, leaving them emotionally drained, and they program the empath to believe this is empathy. But it's not empathy, it's fusion or enmeshment. The boundaries between you and your family are blurred, so you soak up all of their pain. As the empath begins to recognize this pattern, they turn their empathy inward, learning to nurture themselves and prioritize their own emotional needs. For most who are empaths, codependents, adult children of narcissists, the people who need the most empathy is you, and that's you having empathy for you. This shift allows the empath to understand that self-care is not selfish and is actually needed to be able to care for others truly. Bottom line, the empath begins being more empathetic towards themselves. Number 5, when the empath is pushed too far, the empath stops playing into manipulation. Narcissistic parents use manipulative tactics like gaslighting, guilt tripping, and emotional drama to control us as empaths. The empath grows up feeling responsible for the narcissistic parent's emotions, sacrificing their own needs and ability to not be manipulated and to avoid conflict or rejection. Eventually, the empath sees through these manipulative behaviors. They stop responding to gaslighting, shaming, or guilt tripping, recognizing these tactics as tools for control. This creates emotional freedom and allows the empath to set boundaries to protect their emotional space and no longer be controlled by others, and by others' manipulative tactics. Number 6, empaths make communication minimal and dysfunctional, or even go no contact. Once an empath is pushed too far, that's when we feel the more urgent crisis need to develop these types of boundaries and to reduce contact minimally, functionally, low contact, or even no contact. Narcissistic parents often demand constant attention and emotional labor from the empath, expecting them to meet the parent's needs without reciprocating. In other words, the narcissist expects and wants given to, but they don't know how to give back. This leaves the empath emotionally drained and unable to be their true self without fear of being controlled, manipulated, or punished. Over time, the empath distances themselves emotionally and even sometimes physically, reducing communication to a minimal, functional level, or in some cases, ending contact entirely. And I like Henry Cloud's title of his book that's called Necessary Endings. Sometimes we need necessary endings. Limiting or eliminating communication helps protect the empath's energy. It breaks the cycle of manipulation and is often a necessary step in the healing process. Number 7, the narcissist's control crumbles. When the empath is pushed too far, drained too much, their control can begin to crumble because the empath begins to make more choices for themselves. Narcissistic parents maintain control through emotional dependency, expecting the empath to meet their needs for validation and emotional care. The empath is taught to prioritize the narcissist's emotions, believing that their own needs are less important. And since I would be a natural empath or a codependent, then I must be focused on you and not on me. As an empath stops complying with these demands, the narcissistic parent's control weakens and later disappears entirely. I'm not saying the narcissist will stop trying to control, but the control weakens within us, the empath. The empath begins to assert their own needs and autonomy, leading to a significant loss of the narcissist's emotional power over them. Through self-differentiation, the empath reaches a point where the narcissist's attempts at control no longer land. They lose their power to wound or define you. Instead, you can see their behavior for what it is, like someone calling you a Coca-Cola. When they talk, you just hear this Coca-Cola talk. It simply doesn't describe you, and it no longer stirs any significant emotional reaction because it's just nonsense. It's their illness talking through their mouth. We may begin to see the narcissist's wounding attempts as pathetic, weak, and full of bluster. They come to us an unhappy person wanting to make me unhappy, a very unwell person trying to control me and the family. Number 8, the empath finds their voice. After being pushed away and pushed hard for so long, empaths finally reach a breaking point where they find their own voice. Narcissistic parents silence the empath's voice by dismissing or mocking their feelings, The empath is taught that their voice does not matter, leading them to shrink or suppress their authentic self in order to avoid conflict, disapproval, or rejection. The narcissistic parent may even see the empath as pathetic, weak, too much in their feelings. Eventually, the empath finds their voice, speaking up for themselves and expressing their needs and boundaries without fear of rejection or retaliation from the narcissistic parents. And they begin to see that my hyper empathy is wasted on people who are not healthy. Empaths do this by working on strengthening their inner boundaries, detachment, and outer boundaries, such as setting limits, with the parent or the family. If someone cannot control how I feel, this will leave me free to do many things for myself and with others, like speak up, set boundaries, disagree, challenge, and even correct others regarding me and my choices. Number 9, after being pushed so far, the empath sees their worth. Narcissistic parents undermine the empath's self-worth, making them always prioritize others, as if they don't matter. The empath's identity becomes enmeshed with the narcissistic parent's demands, leading them to believe they are only valuable when they're serving others or when they're empathizing, and then acting on their empathy. It is possible for me to empathize and not act on it. It is also possible for me to set my empathy aside. I have control. The brain has those kinds of functions. Eventually, when the empath gets pushed too far, the empath can begin to reclaim their self-worth, recognizing that they are worthy of respect and love, regardless of the narcissist or anyone's approval. They begin to detach from the narcissist's emotional needs and focus on their own well-being, happiness, and worth. Number 10, the empath chooses peace over toxic enmeshed bonds. Again, when the empath gets pushed so far, they begin to make some changes. The empath is taught that they should stay connected to the narcissist, even at the cost of their own emotional health. I can live without a narcissistic family member. I cannot live without inner peace. That's a quote I say often. After being pushed too far, the empath chooses peace over the toxic bonds and cuts ties completely if necessary. They prioritize their own self-care and freedom over maintaining a harmful bond, releasing themselves from the narcissist's emotional grip. This can often run against social norms, family above all rules, my inner fears of loneliness, my fear of what others may think. But as I often tell myself, no one has to walk in my shoes but me. If you're ready to finally break free and start living with clarity, peace, and a grounded connection to your true self, I strongly encourage you to join the Road to Self program. Many who've joined say it was the missing piece in their healing journey, the step that finally helped them to get their family out of them and stand strong as their true self. If you're not sure you're ready for the Road to Self program, if that may not be right for you right now, then start with the free 84-minute self-differentiation training. Over 30,000 people have joined the free training as their first step. Click the links in the description to get started. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and be wise.